Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Did you see that ransomware attack last week? The one that hit those hospitals? Crazy, right? Makes you wonder, are we really safe online?
Yeah, you know these headlines are everywhere. Cyber attacks, data breaches, it's enough to make anyone's head spin. But here's the thing, right? To really grasp the cyber threats we face today, we gotta look back. Look back at the big ones, the ones that made history.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're cracking open this book, Cyber Attacks, Case Studies, and taking a look at 5 infamous cyber attacks. Like, how did they happen and what makes them still relevant today?
Yeah, because even though technology changes so fast, right, like lightning,
Mm-hmm.
the vulnerabilities, the tactics, they often, they repeat themselves. You see the same patterns pop up again and again.
It's like history rhyming, but with keystrokes and code instead of, whatever rhymes with code. So let's rewind the clock. Back to 2010. Flip phones, anyone. The first iPad had just hit the shelves.
Simpler times, right?
Or so we thought. Because then, bam! Stuxnet explodes onto the scene. This wasn't just some malware. This was a full-on cyber weapon, like something straight out of a Tom Clancy novel.
No kidding. This thing sent shockwaves through the cybersecurity world. Imagine a foreign power just shutting down our power grid with a few lines of code.
Talk about a scary thought. The case studies, they lay it all out. Stuxnet went after industrial control systems, the systems that run our power grids, our water treatment plants, and get this, it exploited not one, not two, but 4, count 'em, 4 previously unknown vulnerabilities.
These were zero-day exploits, like finding a secret passage in a house that even the architect didn't know about.
Exactly, and it gets even crazier. Stuxnet went after systems that were air-gapped, meaning they weren't even connected to the internet.
It was like digital espionage on steroids,
Mm.
sneaking in through the back door, even though the front door was locked and bolted.
The attackers were like ghosts in the machine. They were super stealthy. Spent months, maybe even years, fine-tuning Stuxnet, making sure it hit its target with pinpoint accuracy. And speaking of targets, a lot of fingers pointed at Iran's nuclear program.
It was a watershed moment, the first real-world example of a cyber attack causing physical damage in the real world.
It changed everything. Suddenly, cyber warfare wasn't just some sci-fi fantasy. It was real, and it had teeth. It makes you think, what could be next? Our hospitals, our traffic lights. It's unsettling, right?
Absolutely. And it reminds us that the stakes are incredibly high.
Okay, so let's shift gears for a moment. From global sabotage to something a bit more, well, relatable. The 2017 Equifax data breach.
Ouch. Yeah, this one was nasty. We're talking about the personal information of over 147 million people. Names, birth dates, social security numbers, credit card details, you name it, it was probably compromised.
And to think it all started with a known software vulnerability. It's like leaving your front door wide open with a sign that says free stuff inside. A simple security update could have prevented the whole mess.
And to add insult to injury, the attackers had access for months. Months. Can you imagine all the damage they could do with that kind of time?
This wasn't some distant threat, something that happened to other people. This was personal. It affected anyone and everyone with a credit score. It showed us that in the digital age, we're all potential targets.
It was a wake-up call for sure.
Okay, so let's jump ahead a few years to 2013 and the Edward Snowden leaks. This one wasn't your typical hack, but it exposed a different kind of vulnerability, the insider threat.
Right, Snowden, a former NSA contractor, he used his system access to basically, well, he downloaded and leaked classified documents.
Documents about the NSA's surveillance
Yeah,
programs.
super secret spy stuff. He basically used his knowledge of the system's weaknesses to expose what he saw as an overreach of power. It was like a real-life spy thriller, except, it actually happened.
The Snowden leaks sparked a global debate about government surveillance and data privacy. And that debate is still going on today.
It really highlighted this tension between security and privacy in the digital age.
And that brings us to a more recent attack, the 2020 SolarWinds hack, a textbook example of a supply chain attack.
And a real doozy, too. This one was sneaky.
SolarWinds, they make IT management software, super common stuff, used by thousands of organizations, including tons of government agencies, Fortune 500 companies.
Everyone and their dog, basically. And the attackers knew it.
So what'd they do? They found a way to slip malicious code into SolarWinds software updates. It was brilliant in a terrifying kind of way, like poisoning the well, but the well is your software update.
Right. People were downloading these updates thinking they were making their systems safer, but they were actually letting the wolf in the door.
And because those updates came from a trusted source, nobody batted an eye.
It was like something out of Mission Impossible. This attack showed us that even the most secure organizations can be vulnerable if their supply chain is compromised,
It's all connected, isn't it?
like a house of cards.
Mhm.
One weak link, and the whole thing comes crashing down.
Hmm.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from cyber weapons to insider threats to supply chain attacks. What's the biggest takeaway for you, if you had to pick just one?
What have we learned from all this?
For me, it's this. Vigilance and adaptability are key. We can't just rely on yesterday's solutions to combat tomorrow's threats. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we got to stay one step ahead of the bad guys, constantly learning, evolving, adapting.
Exactly. Cybersecurity, it's not a one-and-done deal. It's a marathon, not a sprint, a never-ending game of cat and mouse with the bad guys.
It's a team effort, too. We're all in this together. Individuals, organizations, governments. We got to work together if we want to stand a chance.
Absolutely. 100%. Couldn't agree more.
And on that note, we've come to the end of our cybersecurity history deep dive. Hopefully, you're walking away with a little more knowledge, a little more awareness, and maybe, just maybe, a little more paranoia. But hey, in the digital age, a little paranoia never hurt anyone. So stay curious, stay informed, and until next time, stay safe out there.
And keep your firewalls up.